2 years. Then I got there 5 years. They said to me, before we started, and that's a true story, before the project started.
Celine Dion was born on March 30th, 1968, in a small town called Charlemagne near Montreal, Canada. She was the youngest of 14 children in a very crowded house. With 16 people living under one roof, there was never any quiet time. The family was poor, but they didn't really know it because everyone around them lived the same way. When Celine came home from the hospital as a baby, her parents had to put her in a dresser drawer lined with blankets because they couldn't afford a crib. Growing up, space was always tight in the Dion house. Celine had to share a small bed with several of her sisters, sometimes 3 girls on one mattress. The house was so packed that people slept on couches, floors, and even in hallways. This continued through her teenage years. Her father worked as a butcher for long hours but very little pay, while her mother stayed home managing the household and sewing clothes from scraps and hand-me-downs. Despite all the hardship, music was always present in their home. Her father sang, her mother played violin, and they even named Celine after a French song they loved. It was like they hoped their little girl would one day carry music into the world. However, life outside the house was difficult for Celine. At school, other kids made fun of her constantly because she was skinny and had big teeth. They called her names like vampire. The bullying happened every day and left deep scars that she never forgot. When Celine began singing in public as a teenager, things didn't get much better. Local newspapers mocked her appearance and called her mean names because of her teeth. She was getting noticed for her voice, but the headlines focused on how she looked instead of her talent. By age 18, she had enough of this treatment. She quietly stepped away from performing, got dental surgery to fix her teeth, and came back ready to be seen for what she could do other than how she looked. School was never a happy place for Celine. She once said simply, "I hated school." It wasn't just the bullying that bothered her. She felt like she didn't belong there. Her real education came from her family at home. Her siblings were her teachers, and the dinner table was her classroom. She learned how to sing, perform, and survive from the people around her, not from books. When money was especially tight, the Dion family formed their own band. All 14 children were part of it, and they called themselves Dion's Family. They performed at local venues across Quebec to help bring in money. Celine was just 5 years old when she first sang in her parents' piano bar. By age 12, she had already written her first song and recorded a demo. These performances weren't just for fun. They were necessary for the family's survival and gave Celine a stage where she felt comfortable. While the schoolyard made her feel small and unwanted, the family basement became her safe place. After school, instead of hanging out with friends, she would run straight home to make music with her siblings. Their basement was loud and alive, filled with instruments, laughter, and songs. It was there that Celine truly found her voice and learned to turn her pain into power through music. In June 1980, when Celine was just 12 years old, her family saved enough money to record a demo at a local studio. It wasn't anything fancy, just a few simple songs written with help from her mother and siblings. Her mother, Thérèse, believed so strongly in Celine's voice that she mortgaged their family home to send that demo to a man named René Angélil, who managed Quebec's most famous singer at the time. The family only had enough money to send one tape, so everything depended on this single chance. If the tape got lost or thrown away, it would all be over. Somehow, that tape made it to René, and when he listened to it, he heard something he had never heard before. He later said it was the best voice he had ever encountered. What he did next shocked everyone. He mortgaged his own house, borrowing over $100,000 to fund the career of this 12-year-old girl with no stage experience. Their first meeting wasn't like a formal audition. René didn't even have a proper microphone, so he handed Celine a pencil and told her to pretend she was singing to a full stadium. She didn't hesitate and sang as if her life depended on it. René couldn't believe what he was hearing. He later said she performed like there were 10,000 people in the room, even though it was just a few family members and himself. Between ages 13 and 18, Celine released 9 French-language albums while most teenagers were worried about school dances and exams. At 15, she made history by becoming the first Canadian artist to receive a gold record in France. But at 18, Celine had a secret she couldn't tell anyone. She had fallen deeply in love with her manager, René Angélil, who was 44 years old. The age difference alone would have caused gossip, but there was more to it than that. She kept a photo of him under her pillow and stared at it every night. Her feelings made her physically sick with longing. She knew it seemed impossible because René was old enough to be her father and had already been divorced twice, but she couldn't help herself. When her mother found out about these feelings, she was horrified. René had been in Celine's life since she was 12, and her mother saw the situation as dangerous. But instead of backing down when confronted, Celine stood her ground. She told her mother, "We live in a free country. I can love whoever I want." She was fighting not just for her feelings, but for her independence. When Celine turned 19, everything changed. What had been a hidden crush became a real relationship. For years, they kept their romance secret, with only close friends and family knowing. They were careful because they knew people would judge them, but their love was real, and they were willing to wait and be patient. At the height of her early fame, Celine made a surprising decision. She disappeared from the spotlight for 18 months. It wasn't because of a scandal, it was part of a plan. She got her teeth fixed, changed her hair, and learned to speak fluent English. She didn't want to be seen as just a child star anymore. She wanted to become a global performer. When she returned in late 1986, she was completely transformed. Her voice was the same, but her image had changed completely, and the world noticed. The night that truly changed her life was April 30th, 1988. In front of more than 600 million viewers, Celine won the Eurovision Song Contest. She was only 20 years old. She performed for Switzerland, not Canada, but it didn't matter. When the final votes came in, Switzerland beat the UK by just 1 point, 137 to 136. That narrow victory made her famous across Europe overnight, and she became a continental star. In 1990, she made her biggest leap yet with her first English-language album called Unison. This album changed everything for her career. It sold over 1.2 million copies in the United States and went platinum. In Canada, it was certified 7 times platinum. The hit single from the album reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was almost unheard of for a French-speaking artist. Her first major American television appearance came that same year on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. After hearing her sing live, Leno looked straight into the camera and predicted she would have an extraordinary career. That moment mattered because no one had said something like that about a new French-Canadian singer before. It turned out to be exactly right and opened doors for her across the United States. 2 years later, the Wall Street Journal called her voice once in a generation. This kind of praise from such a serious business publication stunned even her team. She was no longer being compared to other pop stars. She was being grouped with musical legends. Her voice had become her calling card, recognized as strong, pure, and unforgettable. On March 30th, 1992, her 24th birthday, Celine performed Beauty and the Beast at the Academy Awards. The song had just won an Oscar and a Grammy. She sang it live in front of Hollywood's biggest names, and her performance stopped the show. That same night, she launched her next English-language album, and within 24 hours, she was back on The Tonight Show. On December 17th, 1994, Celine surprised the entire country by getting married live on national television. Millions across Canada watched her walk down the aisle at Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal. She was 26, wearing a silk gown with a 20-foot train and a tiara that weighed 7 pounds. Over 500 guests filled the church, which was decorated with more than 10,000 fresh flowers. This was the first time Celine and Renee revealed their relationship to the world, and everyone could see the 26-year age difference between them. After their wedding, while her music career kept reaching new heights, Celine faced years of heartbreak trying to have children. In her early 30s, she started fertility treatments that lasted nearly a decade. Things became harder in 1999 when Renee was diagnosed with throat cancer. Before beginning treatment, they froze his sperm, but doctors found his sperm count was already low, making natural conception almost impossible. They went through at least 7 rounds of IVF treatments. Each one was physically and emotionally exhausting. They also suffered a miscarriage along the way. Though Celine was one of the most famous voices in the world, she kept these painful experiences private. When she finally gave birth, it felt like a miracle. In May 2000, she flew to New York for 2 surgical procedures at a top fertility clinic just 4 days apart. She needed at least 10 days of rest afterward and paused her career completely to focus on becoming a mother. Then on January 25, 2001, their son was born in Florida. They named him René Charles. He weighed 6 pounds and 8 ounces and arrived 3 weeks early. Celine was 33 years old, and the world celebrated with her. She took a break from the spotlight for 3 full years to focus on her new family. In a 2001 interview, Celine shared that when René Charles was conceived through IVF, another embryo was also created and frozen. She felt deeply attached to it and couldn't bear to leave it unused. That embryo stayed frozen for almost 9 years until 2010, when it helped bring her twin boys into the world. Long before all this personal struggle, Celine had become one of the biggest music stars on earth. In 1996, she released Falling Into You, an album that changed everything. It sold over 32 million copies worldwide and won the Grammy for Album of the Year in 1997, beating out albums by the Beatles and Beck. Countries around the world bought millions of copies, and even 25 years later, people still love songs from that album. Then came a song no one could escape, My Heart Will Go On. Released in 1997 for the movie Titanic, it became the biggest hit of her career. By 1998, it had sold 18 million physical copies and was #1 in over 20 countries. In Europe, it stayed at the top of the charts for 17 weeks. Its radio play in the U.S. reached 117 million listeners in 1 month, which was a record at the time. This success wasn't just about one song or album. Celine became the first woman to have 2 albums sell more than 30 million copies each. No other female artist has achieved this. These weren't short-lived hits either. They stayed on charts around the world for months and helped establish her as a true global superstar. In 2003, she changed the future of Las Vegas entertainment. Caesar's Palace built a $95 million arena just for Hajj, called the Coliseum, which held 4,300 seats. Before this, Vegas was seen as a final stop for fading stars, but Celine proved otherwise. Over 5 years, she sold more than 3 million tickets and earned over $385 million. Her success made other major stars follow her lead, including Elton John, Britney Spears, and Lady Gaga. What began with her became the blueprint for modern Vegas residencies. Celine's love story with Renee was unlike any other, but behind the fame and music, they faced a private battle that stretched across 17 painful years. Renee was first diagnosed with throat cancer in April 1998. He fought through surgery and treatment and made what doctors called a miraculous recovery, but the cancer returned in December 2013. Another tumor was removed, but the damage had already taken its toll. Renee couldn't eat anymore and had to be fed through a tube, which Celine often handled herself between rehearsals and performances. Each time his cancer returned, Celine dropped everything. In August 2014, she canceled her Las Vegas shows and a planned tour in Asia. These weren't small decisions. They cost millions of dollars. But she never hesitated, saying she wanted to give every ounce of her energy to help her husband heal. In October 2010, at age 42, Celine gave birth to twins named Nelson and Eddie after going through 6 rounds of IVF and suffering 1 miscarriage. René passed away in January 2016 at age 73. In his final months, Celine was feeding him herself. Even though he had stepped down as her manager, he remained the heart of her career until the very end. She stayed by his side, just as she had promised she would. In 2024, the documentary I Am Celine Dion revealed a side of her life fans had never seen. In one heartbreaking moment, cameras captured her having a seizure during a recording session. Her body stiffened, and she moaned in pain for almost 8 minutes, unable to move or speak. Her medical team had to act fast, giving her emergency medication while trying to keep her conscious. The director wanted to stop filming, but Celine insisted they keep recording because she wanted people to see what it's really like to live with her illness. Celine's diagnosis shocked the world. She has stiff person syndrome, a rare disorder that only affects 1 or 2 people in a million. The condition causes muscle spasms that can be triggered by sound, touch, or even emotion. It can twist the body, damage the spine, and take away the ability to walk. There's no cure, and treatment often includes special medications and injections. For Celine, the diagnosis came after years of confusing symptoms. Doctors only discovered it after the pandemic gave her a chance to finally stop and focus on her health. Before that, she had hidden her illness from the world. Even when she was in pain and her voice wouldn't cooperate, she kept performing as many as 70 shows in a single year. Behind the scenes, she was seeing specialists and trying new treatments while pretending everything was fine. This nearly broke her, but she didn't want to let her fans down. It wasn't until August 2022 that doctors confirmed her condition, and in December she told her fans the truth. Now her sons are part of her care team. Nelson and Eddie are only 14, but Celine has trained them to spot the signs of a crisis. They know how to turn her on her side, press panic buttons around the house, and when to call for help. Every night they practice these emergency procedures, and they even check on her if she's taking too long to get ready for bed. Even though René is gone, Celine still feels his presence. In 2021, she said she often senses him with her. When things get hard, she talks to him and feels him during the darkest moments of her illness. He was her husband, manager, and best friend, and that bond has never left her. Celine's strength and talent have been recognized around the world. In 2008, she received France's highest civilian honor, the Legion of Honor, from President Nicolas Sarkozy. Very few foreigners ever receive this award. In 2023, Rolling Stone named her the 10th greatest Canadian artist ever, ranking just behind legends like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young. Her eldest son, René Charles, is now making his own mark at age 24. He's found success in 2 completely different worlds. In 2021, he released a hip-hop music project. In July 2025, he shocked the poker community by advancing deep into the World Series of Poker main event. Out of more than 9,700 players, he made it to day 5 and earned about $70,000, showing that poker talent runs in the family just like his father René, who had also been a serious player. Today, Celine continues to inspire people around the world with her music, her strength in facing illness, and her dedication to her family. From a crowded house in Quebec to global stardom, from hidden romance to public heartbreak, from the heights of success to personal struggles with health, her story shows the power of talent, determination, and love. Though she faces new challenges with her health condition, Celine Dion remains one of the most beloved and respected artists of our time, with a legacy that will continue to touch hearts for generations to come.